we're going to start with Real Madrid and Manchester
Yep.
City, even though there's a lot of significant things that happened, including not a very good 2 days for City A clubs, as it happens. Not good for Manchester City either. Before we go into the Pep Guardiola Inquisition, let's say, how about that Kylian Mbappé?
He had a brilliant game, didn't he? I mean, the goals he scored showed his athleticism, showed his awareness, how to find space, the composure in front of goal, the ability to finish from long distance. He was the all-round centre forward, something we didn't see at the start of the season, but we're now seeing on a more regular basis. He looks to be the world-class player that we always thought he was.
I mean, this is the challenge that Real Madrid had when they brought him in. Obviously, he was mostly playing on the left-hand side. Vinicius is there. He would have to adapt. You're asking your most expensive player, certainly in terms of wages and whatnot, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 players in the world, to adapt for somebody else. Just as a coach, how big a deal is that?
Well, I don't think Ancelotti actually sort of said you had to adapt. I think he was trying to get the 2 players to form an understanding where one would drift in field, the other one would go out wide, and that worked to a certain degree. And Kylian Mbappé has said in the past that he likes to play on the left, and then I've heard him say, "Oh, actually, I like to play through the middle." He's playing through the middle at the moment and doing a very good job of it. And when he does go into wide areas, then other players are making those runs through the areas he leaves. So they've finally, after quite a while, found the combination.
Psychologically, obviously, they dropped 2 points at the weekend. Yep. They go into this game Monday night. Barcelona beat Rayo.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, I-League, as you like to say in Spain, and really Real Madrid, even though they're 11 points with Barcelona, are behind because Barcelona have the edge in the head-to-head, and that's probably not going to change in the return Clásico. To get up again for this game and not just see it home with a draw, because obviously with the first leg result, that would have been enough, but to go and really come up with a statement win like this, does that feed the Real Madrid mystique narrative?
To a certain degree. I mean, they got off to an unbelievable start, didn't they? They'd hardly touched the ball. Asensio has time on the ball, and he just plays, he's playing into a good area, and he plays it for the run, and it's inch perfect in the end. But from Man City's point of view, it's such a poor goal to give away. The 2 centre-halves don't read it quickly enough. 2 centre-halves aren't quick enough. Diaz tries to head a ball that he can't head, so he stumbles on the ground. Ederson's in no man's land. It's a lovely ball played over the top and a great finish, but that put them in control of the game. Now Man City are already 2 goals down in the tie. So it made it a lot easier for Real Madrid. They played well, don't get me wrong. Their closing down was good. Their passing was good. They found spaces to play. They were excellent.
All right, let's get to the negativity then. It was weird because the day before, so Erling Haaland had a knock at the weekend. You saw it at the end of the Newcastle game.
Yep.
He trained the day before. Supposedly came to training fine, but apparently not because he didn't start this game. Were you a little surprised just in the sense that City are way behind in the league? They're not going to win the league. This is a shot that you have. I mean, do we think it was more serious than we thought? Did you go on the... If you'd been Haaland, would you say, all right, screw this, I'm going to take a painkiller and go out there? Or, I mean, it's something... It's a medical thing, right?
It's a medical thing. And from what I gather, and the interview I saw with Pep Guardiola, he was saying that Haaland made the decision. Haaland said, I don't feel right, don't quite feel good enough to play, so we're not going to play him, which I can understand from a manager's point of view. As soon as a player says to you, well, I'm not really sure about this, and I'm not sure, you go, okay.
So that's not a thing. But the City formation and the lineup choices, I think, were interesting. Whether it's Kusanov on the right.
Yep.
Frankly, nobody. We talked about this off air, but it looked as if on the left-hand side, it was just Guardiola all by himself.
Yep.
Whatever they tried kind of blew up in their face.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his system was. Marmoush, I presume, was meant to be playing through the middle, but he drifted into different areas. Savinho, when I saw the 11 players that he picked, I thought Savinho would play on the left-hand side and be 1v1 against Valverde, who's a midfield player playing at right back, but he's a good player all round. I just was shocked by who was playing in what position in the midfield. They look disorganised. Yeah. There's no legs in there either.
Let's dive a little bit deeper into this and his team selection. I want to go back to Haaland for a minute. because obviously he was on the bench. I guess there's two ways. You start him, and then if he doesn't feel well, he comes off. But maybe that's a bad look. Maybe you don't want to waste a substitution. Although Pep not really known for using all 5 of his subs or being worried about his substitutions. Maybe you bring him on the bench so that in the hopes that, hey, maybe we're 3-0 up at halftime and we don't need to bring him on. What's the thinking there? Because again, it's not a muscular injury he suffered. I mean, certainly we saw the dynamic, right? What's the...
Well, I don't understand it, because as a coach or a player, I was either fit to play or not fit to play. You can't say, well, I might be fit for half an hour or I might be fit for 20 minutes. If you're not fit, you're not fit.
Well, I think with that kind of... I mean, I think there are some injuries where you might say that if you're short on match fitness.
If you're coming back from an injury, and you might sort of say, well, you know, as a coach, you might say to him, well, you haven't played for 6 weeks. You know, if you can play 60 minutes for us, you know, and then I know you're going to be tired. We're talking about tiredness now. We're not talking about fitness, an injury, and I think that's what Haaland was saying to the manager. I don't feel right. Something's not right. You can't then go and be the substitute, because if you then come on and get a worse injury, I just don't understand it.
Maybe he didn't train for a couple of days. Maybe some players, if they don't train, they don't feel ready to play. Maybe he didn't play for I'm speculating here. I'm giving them an out. Maybe he didn't train for a couple of days after the Newcastle game to recover from his knock. Could it be that?
It could be.
And then he only had like the mild training session on Tuesday.
As a coach, I would say to the player, you know, he come like, oh, I said, so are you fit enough to play? And then I said, well, okay, you're not fit enough to play. If you're thinking about it, you're not fit enough to play. Make sure you go see the physio, you have your recovery, and we'll make sure we get you right for the next game. You don't sort of think, we might bring you on after 20 minutes, or we might bring you on for the last 10 minutes. You can't do that as a coach.
Right, but when it's your best player, I mean...
or your best goal scorer. Yeah. But I still, he's either fit or he's not fit.
I'm going to go back to this Pep thinking outside the box. I'm never going to criticize a coach who's trying to do things differently. But even if it doesn't work, right? I mean, that's what made Pep great. He was creative. He still is creative. He tries something creative, and it doesn't work in this game. What I might question a little bit is it's not like they were 3 goals down. All they had to do was win by 1 goal. And I know, obviously, Real Madrid scored early, and that changes the dynamic of the game. But I just wonder, did you have to go so far outside the box in a match like this when, you know, Real Madrid, they still have the same issues that they have. You know, Rudiger just coming back from his injury. You have an emergency right back. The lack of balance in the team, which we've talked about, is still there. I mean, when they work hard and work well, then it works well. But does it almost show a sign of weakness when you go and throw this weird curveball? I mean, we've seen, by the way, these are Pepisms from the past. You remember Laporte at left back against Liverpool and dropping, who was it? He dropped Aguero one game. And almost like, does it harken back to that a little bit?
I mean, there was only one player that was really, if you looked at the team shape, there was only one player that was played in a strange position compared with the rest of the players, and was Savinho.
Well, I'd argue Kusanov at right back.
But Kusanov, he's playing him at right back, but he's still playing as a right back. So the shape of the team would have been okay if it had had Savinho out on the left-hand side. Then there was a balance to the side, rather than having just Guardiola defending and trying to attack down the whole of the left-hand side. And really, we didn't see anything of Savinho. So he's been quite an influential player when he's played at his best. But where he was playing, I don't think he knew where he was playing. At times I saw him up front, at times I saw him on the right wing, at times I saw him sort of in the inside right position, but 10 yards away was Phil Foden. You know, and then Gundogan and Nico and Bernardo Silva in midfield. There's no legs in there, so you got a problem.
What struck me too about the decisions in the midfield, like you said, not much in the way of legs. I mean, Nico, I suppose, is supposed to provide the legs. Gundogan, I didn't understand. I mean, wouldn't Kovacic make more?
Absolutely.
I've watched Kovacic
play. I've seen Kovacic play recently, and he's been one of their better players. I think he's played really well. Gundogan looks way off the pace to the player that I saw 2 years ago. He didn't play particularly well, I didn't think, at Barcelona. And Bernardo Silva, in terms of his athleticism and his defensive qualities, which you're going to have at some point in the game, they're not there anymore. So it's a massive problem.
what struck me about the Kusanov decision as well is he's not particularly good on the ball, right?
No.
In addition to the fact that you're young and you chuck him in at the Bernabeu, whatever, right? So I felt that every time there was kind of an opening in there. I mean, compared to what Rico Lewis or Akanji or any, or even Kyle Walker, it looked to me like he always played it safe. And Real Madrid figured it out straight away that there was going to be no threat coming from him, which might have been why he felt the need to overload that right side with Savinho.
Maybe so. But then whenever he got the ball, it was almost as though Real Madrid, okay, that's fine. So they didn't then press it. They just stood there. There was a couple of times where he passed it square and he got it back again. He passed it square. And Real Madrid took their rest when he had the ball because he was never going to pass it forward. You saw he had pace on one or two occasions. But you talk again, throwing him into a game. Playing at the Bernabeu is not a problem. But you're playing against one of the world's best players in Vinicius Junior. Somebody that once he gets the smell that he can beat you, is going to do it over and over again. So although he matched him for pace, it was always going to be a struggle for him.
Yeah. It looked to me like maybe kind of overthought Vinicius a little bit. Yeah, obviously the threat's still there, but, it's choose your poison with Real Madrid. It's not him, it's Bellingham, or it's Mbappe. One final thing, the Stones injury. This is a guy who's obviously has struggled really since arriving at Manchester City with injuries in and out and in and out. We give Pep a pass on that one. But clearly when he goes out and Ake comes in, City drops several levels.
Well, I wouldn't agree with that.
Well, when you're chasing the game.
When you're chasing the game, because
when they were chasing the game.
So when I see John Stones now, I don't see him as a centre back. I see him as a midfield player because that's where he plays at his best. I've always said, right from when he was at Everton, I don't think John Stones is a good defender. I don't think he reads danger. I don't think he's particularly quick.
Okay, but what I'm driving at, Robbo, is they're 2-0 down at that point, right?
Oh, yeah.
On aggregate.
Yeah.
And on the right, you have a guy who gives you nothing attacking-wise. On the left, you have Guardiola, who's got to do the whole flank by himself.
Yeah.
The other center back is Ruben Diaz, also, not exactly Beckenbauer on the ball, although better than Kusanov. So you needed that from Stones, certainly, right? But you lose Stones, and then you've got Ake, who is another one who's not exceptional on the ball.
No. So the thing I didn't quite understand, if you're going to play Stones, do what you did with him last year and the year before, where he steps into midfield, and that's when he looks a good player. Right. And then you can play Akanji on the right-hand side, who can do the right-back job, and then fill in for him. That's why I didn't understand why he played.
I think it only lasted 7 minutes anyways. It was by the by. But I think Stones could have had an impact. I mean, that is maybe a mitigating factor. Final word on Nico. Were they a little bit too hasty with this mini Rodri nonsense?
Yes.
And why would you even say that? Like, why would you? He's still a young guy who comes in. Why would you go and load up the pressure on him?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, all managers, when things are going against them, quite often say strange things or say things to sort of off the top of their heads. And at the moment, Pep Guardiola's having a struggle, and he's saying things that probably he will regret 2 or 3 months later. He's a manager, like all managers do when they're having a problem. Their mind gets a little bit fuzzled, I think.
All right. On Real Madrid, we can't do the thing where we say the team is balanced when they win and unbalanced when they don't win, right?
Yeah.
This is still a very unbalanced side, whichever way you slice it. But when the front four work and they take the lead, and they still have enough individuals that they can beat anybody, right? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, it should be a balanced side. They're asking quite a lot of Bellingham, because Bellingham likes to make runs through the middle. That's where he scored all his goals last year, and that's where he wants to play, really. But Ancelotti can't sort of say, you just keep making forward runs, because he needs another player in midfield. So Bellingham then has to get back into that sort of left of a three in central midfield. That's a lot of work for him. And when he does make those runs, is he going to rely on Vinicius Junior to get back in that position?
No,
probably not.
No.
So that's where it becomes unbalanced.
But this is a stage where you go to Bellingham and you say, "Listen, Jude, you were, arguably Madrid's best player last year. You're still a young player. I need you to make a sacrifice for this." I mean, I've been arguing this the whole time, right? You have to go and you got to put on your hard hat and say, when you go with England, you can say who else, right? And you can be the superstar. Here, if you want this team to win right now with the players we have out, with the way we are in midfield, where, I got to pull Ceballos out, who's been fantastic, by the way, no argument there, but still, you have to go and do this. You have to say, am I going to put the team first, even if it means I get less opportunities? Am I going to sacrifice myself and run myself into the ground for the team? Or am I going to say, well, no, wait, I'm a star. Why doesn't Vini sacrifice himself? Why doesn't Mbappe sacrifice himself? And if you're Carlo, you say, I'm going to ask those guys to sacrifice themselves too, but you're better at it than they are. And you're younger, and maybe you should defer a little bit.
Well, but we know footballers have massive egos. Massive egos. And Jude Bellingham's no different. And I think it has been getting worse and worse. And he probably turned to Ancelotti at the beginning of the season and said, hang on, I was your best player last year. I was playing through. Why now have I got to be the best player, be sacrificed to go there? But it's not really a sacrifice. You're playing on the left-hand side of a midfield three. That's your position. That's where you've always played.
Right. It also means just to cover a lot more ground because he also wants them to come and almost be like a second center forward. I mean, the answer to that, if I were Ancelotti and he were to come to
But is Ancelotti asking him to be a second centre forward? Or when you've got a front three of Rodrigo, Mbappe...
Oh, I think he's definitely... In certain games, he's definitely asking him to have that physical presence in the box.
Is he doing that? Or is Jude Bellingham saying, I'm meant to be here, but I'm going to be up there? That's the question I would ask.
I think to some degree he's doing it too, because he knows the psychology of players. Right? He knows that Bellingham wants to be scoring goals too. But I don't know. From everything we hear about how mature and how smart and Bellingham is, if he comes to Ancelotti and he says what you said, right? Hey, hang on, I was the star of the team. Be like, listen, I don't make the team. That man with the glasses, Florentino, makes the team. You look around. You're smart enough to realize that if you can get Vini to go and turn into Park Ji-sung and run back and forth, then there's no problem. You can be the second center forward. You can play wherever you like.
Yep.
Okay, but that's not going to happen. But you're welcome to try. You go talk to Vini, right? And so, what do you want? Do you want to win another Champions League? Do you want to do you want to help the team this way? This is what I have to do. If you come up with a different solution, I'm all ears, right? Should I get Vini to play in your position in central mid as a holding midfielder? Do you think that would work? And maybe that's the way to reach him. I don't know, but I do know that performances like yesterday. I know that Mbappe gets the headlines. I thought Bellingham was really good yesterday.
He was good, yeah.
And if he can do this, he can really be that midfield leader, that midfield warrior. That's what Real Madrid need right now, because you are carrying three forwards. And even though Mbappe worked more and Rodrigo worked more in this game, and it went downhill because of the early goal, you're still going to have this problem in a lot of games.
And I think if they had the chat again, Ancelotti say, when I bought you, I didn't see you as the centre forward. It's because we had to play you there because obviously they'd lost their centre forward, Benzema, and somebody's got to make those runs. Now, for all your career, and it's a very short career, you've always been a central midfield player, somebody who's up and down, not always a number 10.
No, I feel vindicated, Rob.
Yes,
because I've been arguing this the whole time. Like people are like, "Oh, Kroos is gone. What are we going to do? The sky's falling." Get that guy. He can do it. He can do it for you. Even when Joao Mane had to play centre back. By the way, I thought it was really nice to see him back in midfield.
Yes, and he played well yesterday.
Where he belongs, I think he was happy not to be at the back anymore. I think he was happier still that Haaland wasn't playing. A word on Dani Ceballos. It's so simple. When you have a guy who can pass a little bit and who's also been willing to be humble and put on the hard hat. Because when Ceballos was very young, I mean, I remember I saw him at the under 21s. Yes.
There was him, Fabian Ruiz, and Saul. They were the midfield three, I think. Am I right?
Yeah. It's really funny because of that trio, like all of them have done, well, Saul maybe less, but the other two, they've all had that vertical rise. Remember how exciting that was, right? But Ceballos was the quality guy from...
Did he not win the player of the tournament?
From that trio. I don't remember.
I think he did.
All right. His career, for different reasons, took a different path. But now he can reinvent himself in this role. And when I look at it, I say, and you can help me out here. You've worked with very talented midfielders who maybe didn't go and have that edge or that work rate. Alan Shearer likes to say, well, effort should be taken for granted, right? How hard is it? Have you to get the talent guy to go and say, all right, I'm going to go run and chase and work the way Ceballos has done?
It can be difficult. But I always say, if you're a midfield player, You have to do both sides of the game. I really don't like when they say, well, he's a holding midfield player and he's a defensive midfielder and he's an attacking midfielder. If you're a midfield player, that's why you play in midfield, because you have to do both sides of the game. You have to be good enough on the ball to be creative. You have to be good enough with your passing to switch the play or whatever. But you also have to be good enough both with your effort, your athleticism, and your understanding of defensive play if you're a central midfield player. And that's what Ceballos is, and that's what he has to do.
I think Real Madrid suddenly, with the rise of Asensio, with obviously Rudiger coming back, and we saw Alaba at the end. I genuinely don't know what condition Alaba is going to be in and what he can give you. But if he can give you some minutes between now and the end of the season, then that means Tchouaméni stays in midfield. And then suddenly in midfield, you've got Tchouaméni, you've got Camavinga, you've got Ceballos. Then Valverde can stay at right back, and he may not like it, but I like it. I think Carlo likes it.
Yeah.
And I think he's very useful in that position. And then you just might be able to carry to pull off that front three plus Bellingham.
Because remember, when Carvajal was at his very best for quite some while, although he's a right back, quite often he played quite high up the field. When you remember those balls that Toni Kroos hit, Valverde, ideal position for him. He got forward well, delivered 2 brilliant crosses into the box in the second half. He can show his athleticism. Great position for him.
I like him there. We'll see where they are. Certainly, La Liga is so tight right now.